guys, welcome back. I am back. I am back from getting married. You guys didn't feel any disruption because I filmed ahead for Monday's video, but yes, I am, what do they call it? Like an honest woman now or something like that. So today, guys, it's not just exciting that I'm back and married, but it is also exciting that today we are going to be playing with the much anticipated Natasha Denona Gold Palette. So we are going into Gratitude Month as the month of November begins, so I wanted to get this in before the buzzer so that she can be in play in November, so we can actually play with her in November because this will be my first impressions. This palette, just like all the Natasha Denona palettes that come out there this size, is $129. I really don't like this packaging. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. When I opened it, I was like, this is kind of tacky. That's just, you know, because the other ones are so, I don't know, they're so low-key and like pretty. I love the Safari palette and how it's matte because it's an all-matte palette. I love the Tropic palette. It's just on theme. Anyway, it's still her heavy-duty, high-quality packaging, magnetic closure, and it's actually got this overlay on it of all the colors that doesn't come out. Oh, wait, yeah, sorry. It has a perforation, so I guess I could take it out, but then it wants to, like, lift the mirror up. So we're just gonna leave her there. It did come a little bit broken, so that was cool. Thanks, Beautylish. Usually their packaging really does the trick, but the, what is this? Ah! Jesus, Khaki, calm down. Lime Chrome came broken, and so I had to mash her back in there for $129. Oh my god, I just lost an entire shadow. Where did it go? That is absolutely insane. It fell on the ground. I'm just gonna press her back in there. This is, really getting off to a good start. This is like the longest intro ever. Guys, let's just like zoom in. We'll start putting this on my eyes and start talking about it before it like just, I don't know, incinerates in my hands or something. So if you're wondering, I have the Natasha Denona Foundation X on my face right now and the Super Glow highlight on my face too, so I'm staying on theme. I'm obsessed with this foundation. I love it so freaking much, and I've also obsessed over the highlight forever and ever too, so no surprises there. So the Sephora details on this palette, I don't like to go and watch other reviews of a palette before because it's going to put me one way or the other. If I leave information out, it's because this is a first impressions and I don't know everything about this palette. I just want to experience it like cold. Okay, it says a palette featuring 15 brand new eyeshadow shades. So these, even if they're similar to other shades in other palettes, they are technically brand new to this palette. In the classic signature Natasha Denona formulas, including matte, metallic, sparkling, and duochrome shades, this palette debuts shades of gold in an array of different textures. It also includes browns and greens to complement any of the gold hues, so you can create a broad range of eye looks from natural and golden to dramatic glam. I'm a little dehydrated. I've got a little bit of dry mouth going on, and it is because Austin, Texas is in a boil water warning because we have flooding and our lakes look like chocolate milk and they had to change our water system over. What are you doing? We have to boil our water before we drink it, and so I am just... Okay, so at least now I have, you know, the shade references here. I can lay over that, but that was going to be so obnoxious. But you can see, if you are looking for a dreamy gold and neutrals palette, this is going to probably have you covered. This does not have my requirement, my preference for a palette which would have a like a creamy matte highlight shade. It does not have that, but it does have a very, very shimmery highlight shade, so we'll try and make that work. I do have kind of supplementary palettes we can use. So I already have my Angel Eyes primer on from Luscious Cosmetics, and there's really not a good shade in here to set with. So I'm actually going to go into my PYT No BS palette. It has this amazing, huge highlight setting shade, and so I'm just going to take that and just dust it all over very lightly. Once again, she has put, you know, 3 shades in here that look deceptively similar. I say deceptively not because I've already tried them, but because if there's anything that I have learned with Natasha Denona palettes, it's that they're so heavily pigmented that the undertones will be the thing that separates them. And so you'll see some that look really, really similar to each other, and then you will put them on your eye and like, oh, okay, well that one's really pink, or that one's really yellow, or that one's really purple or something. So those are the 3, Sandstone, Teak, and Aria. I will say that Sandstone and Aria are outrageously similar. Look at that. Anyway, let's go ahead and get a transition shade on my eyeballs. We're going to go into Aria right here. I did my own makeup for my wedding. It took me a really long time. And then my bridesmaids, 2 of my bridesmaids are hairstylists, and they were like my little birdies, like if I were Cinderella, and they helped me. I mean, they put all the flowers in my hair. We all just kind of like looked at every angle of my hair and made a lot of decisions on the updo kind of on the fly. I felt so beautiful. I will stick a couple of photos in. I did have a videographer that was a gift from my friend Genevieve, who was my photographer, but also is like one of my oldest friends. She and her husband came and they shot the wedding, and then she's like, you know, as a gift to you, I'm going to also fly in a photographer as long as you're okay with getting raw footage. And so he showed me some of the footage as he was taking it, and he's working on like a $2,000 lens, you know what I mean? $6,000 camera, and it just looked unbelievable. It was so, 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 so beautiful. I am gonna do a whole video of like our wedding and everything, similar to the way Leanne did, so that will be forthcoming. So I went, you know, a little heavier transition shade-wise, just because I could feel the shadow kind of grabbing a little bit. We're going to go into this matte brown right here, go ahead and just kind of outline a crease. I'm going on my Makeup Geek Defined Crease Brush. This brush is $8.50. I think that this brush is really outstanding. So, no surprises here. Her shades are really pigmented and really sticky. It's not like the Melt palette or like an Anastasia palette in that you can put it down and then just kind of keep working it. It sticks, even though I put a primer down and set it, it sticks and it stays. And so you really, in order to blend, you kind of have to pick up that color and then the previous color, mix them together and kind of work above, get a little blend going. But fortunately, that also means that they layer really nicely without getting muddy, usually. We'll see. Oh boy. She's looking a little crazy. I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, I mean, I don't know how many of you guys follow me on Twitter. Not that many people follow me on Twitter, that's fine. I got an email from Beautylish that said that she's coming out with a cranberry palette, and I was just absolutely done at that point. I was like, really, Natasha Denona? We really want to look at a $129 palette. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I look at a $129 palette and I say, okay, this is a collector's item. This is something that I want to treasure and I want to make a big deal out of because I'm spending a lot of money on it. And like, no shade, but it's hard to think of something as this like treat that you would buy yourself when there's one coming out every month. Am I the only one who feels that way? I mean, I debated even buying this one. I was so excited about Safari, and there's just something about like, it just kind of steals its own thunder. I'm going to take a very fluffy brush here, and I'm going to dip it into that kind of khaki color here. And I'm going to tap the crap out of it and bring that kind of above right here. This is a Sigma Tapered Blending E40. I did not expect to love this brush this much because it doesn't look very precise, but it really has very few bristles and it's a little bit duo fiber, and it does a great job of really diffusing a color. Even a Natasha Denona eyeshadow, because these pigments are really dead serious. This being a holiday palette is kind of an interesting choice to me. I like it because, I mean, yes, it's super glitzy and everything, and she didn't shy away from like the vampiness of it all. I really, really like that. But then again, it's a little overshadowed by then putting out a cranberry palette. I kind of wish that they would just forecast things. Be like, hey guys, we're gonna put out a palette every month, so, you know, brace yourselves. I guess that's just kind of the new normal. I don't know. So these are blending beautifully. I really, really like that. So next, I'm going to go all over my lid with this crazy freaking color right here. It's gorgeous. It's called Aurora. I'm just going to take my finger and, all right. right, so that shade is a topper shade. There's no pigment. I mean, there's a little bit of pigment to it, but not enough for it to carry the whole lid, if you can see that. It's not going to, it's like skin's gonna show through. So I will just kind of brush a little bit of that off. That just wasn't what I expected. That's why we do first impressions, but we'll brush a little bit of that off and we will come back to her. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a teeny tiny little flat brush and I'm going to work this shade right here all over the lid, and we're going to go for a smoky eye. It's happening. It's happening. Even if it's ugly, it's happening, and you guys will at least get to see how these shades perform. All right, so really we've only worked in the mattes so far, and the mattes are performing very beautifully, just like a Natasha Denona matte should. This is still matte, I believe. It looks like it has just a little bit more satin to it than the other mattes. I could be wrong though. So I'm taking that on this tiny brush from Thrive, and I think I have hair stuck on my face. Can you not? Can you not? And I'm just going to work that onto the lid. This is really the deepest shade in the palette. There are no really deep, dark, almost black colors or anything to build a very dramatic crease, which I like doing with these kinds of vampy colors. I like to take a black and just really, really work the crease, especially if I do like a black eyeliner. I like to then kind of like blend the wing a little bit so that it's all very diffused. Again, another thing I borrowed from Nessa Sunshine. She does such a good job of that. But there's no real shade for that in here. That's okay. This color is so pretty. Like, I'm looking at myself in my monitor and it is so freaking pretty. By the way, guys, I try to look in the lens, but most of the time when I'm editing or if I take a picture of myself or something like that and I'm looking into the lens, I look cross-eyed. And so that is why I don't look into my lens most of the time. And I know that that drives like a handful of people crazy, and I'm sorry, but like it's actually pretty common. A lot of people watch themselves, especially to make sure that I'm still in focus and that my camera hasn't turned off. I really like that. That is so pretty. And it probably wouldn't take this long to put this shadow on if I were, you know, more familiar with the palette. I'm just trying to be really, really careful. We are getting a little bit of fallout. That's kind of to be expected from this pigmented of a palette. I feel like even though these are really, really sticky shades, like I say, you're still picking up a ton of product, even just dipping your brush into any shade. So we're not having as much trouble this time layering and it coming out patchy as we did with the Safari palette. So if you guys remember, Fata Morgana right here, it was just a little bit more difficult to work with. Yeah, wow, you can see. So look at how, like this one, this is very little product on my fingers, but this is the one in the new palette, and then the Fata Morgana just like is just patchy and doesn't really want to grab as much. And I had that same experience, if you guys remember from that video, where I was trying to pile the color on and it just kind of wouldn't. And so I'm pleased that this one's not doing that. So let's pick a gold. What do you say? We have all of these freaking golds, hence the name. All right, so if you're gonna put out a palette that's all golds, you probably should make them this different from each other. Wow, why can't I? So this one right here is called Varus. This thing is insane. It's not glittery enough for what I want to use on my eyes today, but this I want to build an entire look around. It's absolutely freaking gorgeous. You have so many options. The other thing that I think is a little weird is that just like a couple of exceptions, like there's this one's called Alchemist. This is gorgeous. This is really coppery. And this one in the center, which is called Oro, which is Spanish for gold. With the exception of those, most of these aren't super pigment heavy. They're kind of glitter heavy. And so we're going to go for a more pigment heavy shade, and then we can kind of go in with some glitter on top. Yeah, I have to go with Oro. I have to. The choice was made for me a long time ago. My little baby brush here. Oh my God. Hi. I'm just gonna start packing that because it's not super spready. Spready. That's definitely not a word. That is quick work though. Like, boom, done. You know, this is just so foily, so incredibly pigmented and creamy. Dang it, Natasha Denona. I'm gonna look like a beautiful peacock, and I didn't even mean to. Oh my lord, are you kidding me? Wow. Wow. You guys, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of this stuff that's making it in right before the buzzer for Gratitude Month, I was really unsure about. Like, I was in a weird headspace when I bought a lot of these products. I was just like, God, you guys, like, how many palettes is too many palettes, you know? But this is just, oh boy. So I'm gonna take my finger and we're gonna go back into Aurora right here, and I'm going to kind of put that right in the center of the lid like we said we were going to. Yep. Blend the gold kind of into that beautiful peacock shade, which by the way is called Python, and I keep forgetting that. I was really unsure about this palette. Like, I was really unsure about it. In fact, I wanted to not like it, I'll be honest, because I'm just like maxed out, but this is so unbelievable. Oh my god, this color. Oh, this is so pretty. This is so pretty. Coming from like the other end of the spectrum where I was at before, I was just like, really, do I need this many golds? Do I need new mattes? Just Natasha, do I need to put this many palettes out? Yeah, this, dang it. Crap, do I need the cranberry palette? I'm going to take that big, fat, fluffy E40 again, and I'm going to go into that khaki shade again, and we're going to kind of bring it right here so that we have a little bit of pigment that kind of finishes out the look on my top of my eye, so this isn't just blank. This is my I'm so happy and I didn't want to be happy face. Dang it, this is a really good palette. I want to take a little bit of like a gold shade that's in between here and just kind of blend a little bit. And so I'm going to take Aurum, the one that fell out on the ground and tried to betray me. She tried to escape. I'm going to kind of still, yeah, blend a little bit between the gold and the teal of it all. You can get really obsessive with this palette with like blending your golds together because there's like a whole spectrum of golds. You could just do an entire gradient. I'm just gonna paint my face like start to finish, just like every shade of gold. Don't tempt me with a good time. So let's go underneath the lash line here real quick, and then I will highlight the inner corner with this crazy shade, this bright one called Sparks. Who remembers Sparks? Oh my god. I doubt that's what she meant. So for those of you who were not in college in the early to mid aughts, Sparks was a caffeinated beverage with a crap ton of alcohol in it, and I dated a guy who would only drink Sparks. I broke a tooth on Sparks because it was so intensely like flavored and tart and sugary that it made me grit my teeth, and I snapped my front tooth. So the beginning of what led me to my veneers. Taking that little baby brush and going into, what is this one called again? Aurum. And I'm gonna go underneath my lash line, just to start out, see what we can come up with here. I have a feeling I'm gonna go a little nuts on the lower lash line. Huh, well that's not really doing much. So the shade Varus, which I think is a funny word, like I'm not sure if Varus means something else, but I just think of Varus, you know, from Game of Thrones. But it's a really pretty shade, and it's kind of the shade that we ended up making up here, except in a shimmery tone. And so I'm going to use that underneath my lash line, and I'm going to spray my brush. And I'm using the pencil brush from Makeup Geek. It's kind of interesting. It's like stubby, but also pointed. Now we're talking. Yes, we're having fallout. That's fine. Ooh, note to self. Wet my brush with water, not Urban Decay All-Nighter. It's got a little bit of alcohol in it. It's making my eyes a little sensitive. All right. Same brush going into Oro. That crazy, crazy, amazing gold. I like this because it's doing more than the, whoa. It's doing most. These foil shades are doing a lot more than the glitter foil, whatever they are, shades in the Tropic palette. The Tropic palette, I just went absolutely insane with that shade. So in the Tropic palette, if you guys recall, the only kind of shimmery shades that we worked with, I mean, granted, Mint Frost, one day we will conquer Mint Frost. But Goosey and Limoncello right here are really like not very satisfying shades. You really have to like putty them up with some water. I did get like that really, really pretty pink lemonade shade out of them, but you really gotta sweet talk those shades. Whereas like Oro is like crazy. I just dip my finger in and it's just like absolutely insane and effortless. So, I mean, you know, you could kind of accidentally black out and color your whole face gold without realizing it. I'm going to take this great defined crease brush from Makeup Geek. I'm going to dip it into this shade right here, which is kind of, like I said, our mistakable shade, Sandstone. It looks very, very much like Aria. I'm going to blend under my lash line with that. I'm going to believe in myself. I look drunk. This is what MAC powder is for cleaning up things like what I just did. That was so much more pigmented than I thought it was going to be. I don't know why I didn't think that was going to happen. All right, so this is my MAC Studio Fix Pressed Powder. It will save most things. Wow, okay, so there's a little bit of turquoise that dropped down and it has thoroughly sunken into my concealer and is not going anywhere any century soon. So just be aware, you know, maybe this is the one palette that I do my eyes first. And like I said we were going to do, we're still going to go on the inner corner with that crazy shade Sparks. Going to go with my teeny pencil brush here again. See what we can get without, oh boy. Okay. Huh. I don't know how I feel about this shade. What does this remind me of? Aha! Okay, so this is why I review so many palettes, is so that I can tell you guys these kinds of things that happen between brands. So that shade Sparks, this white one right here, that is very, very much like mostly chunky glitter, it is exactly like this. So the Volcano Goddess shade right here, which is called, and this is going to be hard to see because these are all really pearly, but this is called, oh my god, it's called Diamond Dust. Diamond Dust right here, it shifts a little bit kind of orange and a little bit green. This shifts also orange. This is Sparks from the palette we're working with today. And then this is the Fenty Glow Diamond Bomb in How Many Carats. And the Natasha Denona one is somewhere in between those two. It's like this really interesting, not very pigmented, but extremely glittery, but has that same watery effect, like wet effect on the skin that just, yeah, it's like you don't want to use it as an inner corner highlight as much as you want to use it to make a new texture on your skin. I don't know. We're going to stick my pinky in it just to see. And I'm going to, because it doesn't want to pick up on a brush, and I'm going to just touch it on the inner corner here. Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, I'll do it on the other side too, but it's not very pigmented. And so it just doesn't, it adds this really cool kind of like texture in the light, but there's not really a highlighting ability there. So what I'm going to do, since I feel like we've built so much dark and shadow and we really need to bring light back out of it, I'm just going to go into my Thrive palette here because it is my like supplement palette is what I always call it. And I'm going to go in with my pencil brush here. I'm just going to barely highlight my inner corner so that it doesn't look just so messy. Because it kind of looks messy right now. And I want to just kind of clear that out. Make it look like it's a little bit more intentional. And I'll take kind of a fat fluffy brush, blend back into that. Most of the time, if you can take something like this, even if it's just total chaos, if you can contain it, it'll look intentional. I'm going to go back into, oh, okay, so this khaki shade that I keep calling khaki is called Dijon, which actually makes sense because it looks like, you know, mustard. Really blend back out of that bright inner corner that we just did. I'm really, really loving that. And then I'm also going to take just a flat brush here. This is the Sigma E55, and I'm going to go into that same bright shade and just barely touch up here. I don't want to make a huge like white line. I just want to make sure that everything's highlighted. And this isn't super white, which is nice. It looks really white, but it's actually kind of a warm cream color. Because they do have one, Thrive does have one that's a little bit too like cool white. It's one of the Focus Eye palettes and I can't use it. It's like almost silver. Wow! Oh my gosh. Okay, so before I put any eyeliner or mascara or anything on, I just want you guys to kind of take it all in here. I'm looping back on myself and I'm repeating myself, but I am shocked in all the right ways with this palette. I think that most of the time, if I see a company putting things out so fast, I think we're gonna have to be compromising on quality. But this is not compromising on quality. This is a brand new idea. I'm going to throw some liner and some mascara on, and I will be right back with kind of the finished look here. Okay guys, so like I said, was not expecting to like this palette. I don't really know what other people are saying about it on their channels. Like I said, I don't really watch other reviews before I make my own review, but I'm going to start here and say the only shade that I found to be kind of disappointing against expectation was this white shade right here, Sparks, because it just doesn't really have any pigment impact to it. It's just glitter. It's just duochrome glitter. And I really hoped that it would be more of a useful highlight shade to, you know, bring some light back out of any look that I put on my eyes, because these all are very mid-tone. If you're looking at this palette and you're like, wait a second, there are no really deep shades and there are no really bright shades, you're right. You're right. And I think that some things could have been switched around to allow for a really pretty bright shade and a really pretty deep shade, because for $129 we should be talking about a palette that you can travel with at the very least. That is my one critique of this, but aside from that, the formulas here are uncompromising. I mean, Natasha Denona, the selling point is the beautiful creaminess of these shades. I would say that this is an easier palette to work with than the other two Natasha Denona palettes I have, not because the formulas are any different, but actually because of the color choices. These are all shades that are incredibly wearable on the everyday, and then you also have so much excitement in here, you guys. I mean, these shades are ridiculous. This one, right, Varus, like, you guys, this will be the shade that I think is like, I don't know, it's easy to overlook, but it is probably the most universally flattering shade in the whole palette. It's not chromy, but it's not totally matte either. And it just shears out in this really, really beautiful way. Like, when you're gonna pay this much for a shadow palette, you're paying for this really beautiful blendable formula. I do wish that, you know, if I were Natasha Denona, that there were more shades in the palette that were the same finish as Varus. I think that it comes close over here with Aurum, and this one looks like it's going to be like that. This is Aurora, but Aurora really doesn't have a lot of pigment to back it up. It's just very, very shimmery. And then Aurum is this really pretty gold, but again, it just doesn't have that like creamy, punchy impact that that Varus does. And I really, really think that if she put out like a 5 shadow palette that was all this texture, I would buy it. Like, it's just this texture of Varus is like the most unbelievable texture in the whole palette. The mattes are beautiful. The mattes are mattes. Like, she does beautiful mattes. She does a really good job with them. So the question we're trying to answer here probably is, of all the Natasha Denona palettes, is this the one that you should buy? I would say that this is my favorite that she's come out with, but I also don't think that she's going to do like a Melt Cosmetics thing and just discontinue palettes and you'll never be able to get them again. So I would actually like pump the brakes, wait and see how Cranberry is, and if she comes out with another one in December. I don't think that anybody needs to just jump the gun on all these Natasha Denona palettes just because we're scared that they're going to be like a limited run or something. They're all so beautiful. If you miss one, it's not that big of a deal. Also, does anyone need to spend $129 on an eyeshadow palette? The answer is no. You can get beautiful, high-performing shades out of so many inexpensive palettes. Let's see here. Makeup Geek's formula is absolutely gorgeous. The BH Cosmetics formula is absolutely gorgeous. And for, God, what, a third of the price? Something close to that. you can go and get an Urban Decay palette, which has the most unreal formula on an eyeshadow I have ever used. So this is where I put at the end of the spectrum. This is maximum pigmentation, not as easy for a beginner, versus, you know, an e.l.f. palette, which is low pigmentation, but very easy for a beginner. A Sigma palette, very easy for a beginner. The happy medium is always going to be, to me, an Urban Decay palette. It is just such an easy formula to work with. That, and now that I've tried Becca eyeshadows, I will say that the Volcano Goddess, this is another super easy palette to work with. These are just shades that when you figure out how to use each texture, you know, you probably would put the foils on your finger to put them on your skin kind of thing, then they're going to do you more favors. They're going to make you look like you know what you're doing, whereas a Natasha Denona palette can kick your ass if you're not ready for it. So I'm pretty used to the texture on a Natasha Denona palette, but when I first tried the Tropic palette, I had to refilm the video because I was totally unprepared for what her formulas perform like. So that said, I think it is an absolutely beautiful palette. I give it probably an 8.5 out of 10, just because I think that, yes, for all the expectation and everything, the formulas are beautiful, but for $129, I would hope that I would have some deeps and some brights. Sorry, that's just my personal preference. And also, I mean, it's just an exorbitant price. I think that we lose sight a lot of times of how expensive these products are. I think that a lot of us, because of Tati doing her WTFs and going viral with that, a lot of us kind of have become desensitized by spending a lot of money on a makeup item. We're like, oh, you know, people really want to know whether that's worth the money, and not everybody's going to be reviewing something that's going to be very expensive. Like, it's a high risk, high reward kind of thing. So as at home consumers of makeup, if you want a luxury palette that makes you feel really fancy when you're using it, the packaging is really heavy, it's a very satisfying kind of experience, then it's probably worth it to you to spend $129 on a palette. And of the 3 Natasha Denona palettes that I've reviewed, this one is my favorite. But if you are at home going, is it impossible to get a high-performing eyeshadow for under $130 for 15 shades? It's 100% possible. You have to remember that when you're spending $129 on a palette, or any palette that is, you know, prestige in any way, you're also paying for packaging. My mother used to tell me, because she used to work at a cosmetics counter when she was like in her 20s, she said, we were told that even if a woman came back with an empty tube of lipstick or an empty palette of eyeshadow and said, I didn't like this, and wanted her money back, give her money back, because the packaging costs more than the product. And so it doesn't really, there's no real loss on the product. I'm sure that products have come a lot further since then. We are putting more high quality ingredients, more skincare ingredients in our cosmetics now. And so I don't want to say that that's necessarily the case for every brand. I do know that, you know, especially Thrive, they're putting like tons and tons of skincare in their freaking setting powder. And there are a lot of brands like that. Like Volcano Goddess has tourmaline in the eyeshadows. So I don't think that that's necessarily the standard these days. I don't think that like the product is just a throwaway and we're only paying for the packaging. But in a lot of cases, especially for these luxury items, like if you're paying for Chanel, or you're paying for La Prairie, or you are paying for Natasha Denona in this case, a lot of that money is going towards how really nice and satisfying and heavy and luxury that packaging feels. So that might not be important to a lot of people. And honestly, if I weren't reviewing things on the internet, I'm not sure it would be that important to me. So I'm glad that I have it. I'm glad that I was able to give you guys a well-rounded review, but you can get a lot more bang for your buck than a Natasha Denona palette. So guys, if that is helpful, give this video a thumbs up. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you did. I make videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We just talk about makeup, and I am not a makeup artist, and so it usually is me just kind of crashing through things the way that I just did. So if you enjoy those kinds of things, then make sure you subscribe before you leave. Guys, I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and for all of your congratulations in my previous video, because I said that I had just gotten married and everything. Oh my god, I feel like I could finally decompress, start my life with my new husband. I'm just so over the moon happy, so I'm excited to move into gratitude month with you guys. I hope that you are buckled in, because we are going to have a lot of fun. So guys, thank you so much for watching today. I love you, and I'll see you.